Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Thank you for joining us. Opportunities available to the market to help deliver one of the most ambitious and exciting projects ever undertaken in the state of Victoria, Australia, the Suburban Rail Loop, and specifically the Suburban Rail Loop East. I'm Tim Dillon, Victorian Government's Agent General to the United Kingdom and Commissioner to Europe and Israel, based in London. Our office works to support UK and European companies to set up and expand into Victoria. Now, to start, just some general housekeeping rules. First and foremost, please keep your microphone off during the session. Secondly, we'll be having a question and answer session at the very end of the presentation, so please submit your questions as you raise them through the chat function. And finally, we'll be sharing a version or a document post this presentation that will contain all the information that you will see and hear about here today. I'd also like to acknowledge that we are privileged to be joined by three eminent speakers who will be talking you through the Suburban Rail Loop project. First and foremost, the Honourable Jacinta Allen, Member of Parliament, Minister for Transport Infrastructure and the Minister for Suburban Rail Loop, will be speaking via pre-recorded video. Unfortunately, she couldn't attend here today, but she did make the time and effort to prepare a video for this session. To get into the real technicalities of it all and the nitty-gritty, we've got Frankie Carroll, who is the CEO of Suburban Rail Loop Authority. And we've also got Nicole Stoddard, who's the Executive General Manager, Rail and Infrastructure Delivery, SRLA. So between the two of them, they should be able to answer all the questions that you throw at them. Following the presentations, we will have a Q&A session, as I mentioned before. So please post your questions using the Q&A feature or the chat feature, and we'll collate those and address them later. So moving on to the next slide. While many of you will be familiar with Melbourne, you may not realise that it is the fastest growing city in Australia and that Victoria as a state economy is larger than Singapore or that of New Zealand. Melbourne is a city of over 5 million people. The state of Victoria is forecast to have over 10 million people, however, by 2051. Melbourne's transport system will increase capacity to support 10 million more trips a day. This is an increase of 80%. Next slide. Victoria is currently in a transport construction boom, with over $70 billion worth of transport and infrastructure projects being delivered over the next couple of years. To highlight some of the key, we have the $16.5 billion North East Link, which will be PP and is Victoria's biggest ever road investment. I have the Melbourne Airport Rail, which is a $10 billion project with construction expected to commence in 2022. There are many more opportunities in the state for companies to be involved and to grow their business. And to find out more, I encourage you to look at the links provided to Victoria's Big Build. They'll be in the subsequent info pack that we send out to all participants. Next slide, please. A centrepiece of the government's infrastructure pipeline, as I've mentioned, is the Suburban Rail Loop project. The journey for this project, which will transform Melbourne and reset how Victoria grows, started out years ago. The Victorian government could see Melbourne's growth predictions, and we were told by the planning experts that Melbourne would grow to be a city of around 9 million people in the not too distant future. Knowing this, there was a choice. The government could sit back and let this growth swell unchecked, bringing with it the challenges that come with population growth without keeping up with services, and that's increasing congestion, reduced productivity, and declining livability. Eventually, this would overwhelm the city and reduce the high standard of living for which it's renowned. Or the state could start the journey to deliver the once-in-a-generation city-shaping project Victoria needs to keep moving, the Suburban Rail Loop. 2021 has been a huge year for the Suburban Rail Loop. The business and investment case was released. Around 12 kilometres has been drilled as part of geotechnical investigations. Thousands of surveys and engineering tests have been conducted, and details released for the 6 new underground stations and the twin tunnel profile of SRL East from Cheltenham to Box Hill. We've seen new laws delivered through the Victorian Parliament to help streamline the delivery of the project across multiple local municipalities, and environmental planning processes are also now underway. Just last week, the government delivered another major announcement: 10 billion Australian dollars provided for major construction of the first section of the project, SRL East, on top of the 2.5 billion already provided in previous budgets for the planning and initial and early works. This industry event is another important milestone for this state-shaping project. Next year, early works will start creating 800 early direct jobs, with construction on SRL East expected to create up to 8,000 direct jobs in total. SRL will also kickstart careers for thousands of trainees and apprentices and provide a long pipeline of work and jobs for decades. Similarly, it provides a very unique and long-term opportunity to the market to be a part of delivering this multi-billion-dollar and multi-generational project. Here's a short video which will help summarise the project.
Suburban Rail Loop will deliver faster and more convenient travel for all Victorians, connecting major health, education and employment areas and the airport. Over time, Suburban Rail Loop will reshape Melbourne by developing a city of centres linked to each other and regional Victoria. That's because Suburban Rail Loop is more than a transport project. It delivers urban planning and investment around the stations. New and improved cycling and walking paths and public space, and thousands of new business and job opportunities a short walk from a station, helping to shape where people live and work as our city and state grow. Cheltenham to Box Hill will be operating by 2035. Box Hill to the airport will create more jobs and encourage more people onto public transport. With modern trains and turn up and go services, it will slash travel times and ease congestion, providing a huge boost to our economy. With construction underway next year.
Thank you for that. Now, I'd also like to introduce, as I mentioned earlier, to speak further on it, a short video from our Minister for Transport and the Minister for Suburban Rail, Jacinta Allen, MP.
The Suburban Rail Loop is more than just a train line. It is an orbital rail loop that will connect not only all of our existing major metropolitan train lines, but it will also connect up to new vibrant precincts that will be home to more people, more job opportunities, great open space, and also importantly help get people to where they want to go in our city and state. The Victorian Government recently made another major commitment to the Suburban Rail Loop with an investment of $9.3 billion to get Stage 1 Suburban Rail Loop East moving. This stage of 26 kilometres of twin tunnel, 6 new underground stations is all part of our strong and firm commitment to deliver the Suburban Rail Loop. And the reason why we're so determined to deliver the Suburban Rail Loop is because in the years to come, Melbourne and Victoria's population will continue to grow strongly. By the late 2050s, we'll be a state of more than 11 million people. The City of Melbourne will be a city of 9 million people, about the size that London is today. To support the growth of our city, to make sure that people can continue to move around our city easily, access those important places, jobs, health, education precincts that they need to get to, we need to make a big investment in reshaping our transport infrastructure in this state. And that's what the Suburban Rail Loop does. It will be a project that will be delivered over many years, indeed decades. But we're starting now because we know that big projects like these They need a strong start, which is why we've committed significant funds to get this project going, and we look forward to partners from around the world to come and work on this exciting project as we deliver stronger transport infrastructure connections for a stronger Melbourne and a stronger state of Victoria. Thanks for your interest, and we look forward to your ongoing partnership.
Thank you, Minister. I would now like to introduce Frankie Carroll, the CEO of the Suburban Rail Loop. Frankie originally hails from Ireland, and he joined Suburban Rail Loop Authority in January 2021 after holding multiple leadership roles in the Queensland public service and private sector. He brings with him over 30 years of experience in major infrastructure and finance roles. Over to you now, Frankie.
Thanks, Tim. And can I echo the Commissioner and Ministers, thanks for your time and interest today in this incredible project. Before we begin, next slide, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where I am today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Next slide, please. SRL is a city shaping and transformational project. It will deliver a 90-kilometre upper rail line through Melbourne's middle suburbs, transforming how we move around the city and state, improving access to key employment, retail, health, education and Melbourne Airport. The three transport super hubs at Clayton, Broadmeadows and Sunshine will also connect regional Victorians to the loop, opening up new journey opportunities to and from Victoria's regions. As you just heard from the Minister, over time, SRL will reshape Melbourne from a city of centres around a single CBD to a city of centres, attracting more businesses and people to the broader station areas and creating more jobs in Melbourne's middle suburbs and closer to where people live. Victoria and Melbourne are growing. SRL has an opportunity to get ahead of the curve, recalibrating where and how our city grows in the decades ahead. Greater investment through urban planning and local projects that build on the character and qualities of local communities will ensure they continue to grow and be vibrant, safe and attractive neighbourhoods as Melbourne grows. The business and investment case was released in August. The analysis and modelling shows that SRL is a game changer for our city, and it's more than stacks up as an investment. Next slide, please. In November 2019, the Victorian Government announced key aspects of the concept of operations for SRL East rail infrastructure, including standalone twin tunnels, dedicated fleet of high trained rolling stock, likely to be comprised of 4 to 5 carriages. The same ticketing system will serve the existing and new network. SRL East from Cheltenham to Box Hill will deliver and be operational by 2035. 26 twin tunnels and 6 new underground stations, using the newest technology, providing turn up and go with a train plan for every 2 minutes in a peak demand, creating connecting key economic, health, education and retail opportunities, creating 8,000 jobs in the first stage and reducing the number of daily car trips by 71,000. Next slide, please. Construction of SRL East rail between Cheltenham and Box Hill will continue in 2022. Will commence in 2022 and is expected to be completed by 2035. Planning for SRL East precincts is well underway, and a number of initiatives and investments, including short-term activities to engage the community, will be undertaken in parallel with construction of SRL East rail line. SRL North is expected completed between 2043 and 53. Noting this is subject to further detailed technical design, consulting, constructability and market capability. Next slide, please. So as you can see, it's been a big year for SRL. There's very significant momentum behind the project and the government's commitment to the project is clear. The authority has been established to plan and deliver the project. Initial and early works contract awarded and works will commence in 2022. The environmental effects statement is underway and expect planning approval to happen by the end of 2022. Extensive consultation and stakeholder engagement since 2019. And last but not least, last week's major funding announcement of $9.3 billion to kickstart major construction for SRL East, totaling a commitment of $11.8 billion to date for the project. Next slide, please. SRL East is the first stage of a multi-decade project. I think I can safely say one of the largest projects in the Southern Hemisphere. We're in the market to look for long-term partners to help deliver the outcomes for the Victorian people. We've released our procurement and packing strategy to the market, which my colleague will talk to in a few minutes. I hope this project will interest your organisation and you can join us on this journey. Next slide, please. I'd now like to introduce Nicole Stoddard, Executive General Manager, Rail and Infrastructure Delivery. Nicole has an impressive 25-year career spanning projects across Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Philippines, and Thailand. She now leads a team behind the design and development of the biggest infrastructure projects ever undertaken in Victoria. Nicole will be speaking about the scope, packaging, and procurement strategy for the project. Thank you, Nicole.
Thanks, Frankie, and welcome everybody to the session this evening or this morning or this afternoon, wherever we are. Next slide, please. So I'm really excited to share with you the progress we've made on the project over the last few years, and we've been undertaking extensive ground investigations. We commenced those in July 2019. So we've done over 588 investigations. We've done 10,000 samples, as Tim mentioned before. But in that, we've built up a good story and understanding of our geotechnical conditions on the sites, which helps mitigate our risk and understand those conditions. The other piece of work that we'll be working on is with the Environmental Protection Authority to help pre-classify the spoil and know exactly where that material can be classified, and then it can be relocated for construction. So we're really working hard to minimise the risk for the contracting market in this field. Next slide, please. We've also been working hard on the design and associated technical work. So we've completed our concept design, and our reference design is nearing completion as well. We've done over 250 stakeholder meetings. So we really are getting to the crux of what our community and our councils and our other stakeholders would like to see from the Suburban Rail Loop project. So in saying that, we're developing quite an extensive reference design so that we can fix some elements. So, you know, when the contractors come on board, they can revalidate the design and check it and make sure that they're happy to take that as a design on, but we don't necessarily want a revamp and a rethinking of where all the station boxes are. The station box locations have been a result of extensive work with the community, so we're really keen to maintain those positions. Other things like the tunnel diameter, you know, the track gauge, the cross passage locations, and the station box sizing. A lot of those elements, there's been a lot of design work to understand that, and you know, we're keen to share that with the market and help them validate where we've got to on that design progress. Next slide, please. One of the other key areas we've been working on is our market engagement, and this is part of it tonight. So we've done, this is our third round of market engagement, and what we did initially is understand from our market how they think our contract models should work, what sort of scale of packaging that can be accommodated by the market, what's our procurement strategy and our delivery strategies as well. So we've been working quite extensively over several sessions with the market, both one-on-one and these types of engagement sessions, both in Australia and now, you know, in the broader markets that we're doing now. So that's really informed our packaging and procurement strategy, and we've tried to listen to the market in terms of how we should separate disciplines, you know, how we get the best expertise in the right place, and how we limit the risk profile to the companies working on our project. Next slide, please. So I'm now just going to give you an overview of our packaging and procurement strategy by geography. So across the top, you'll see all the different station locations and the stabling yard as well. And you'll see some arrows, and that shows our TBM launch positions and the directions that they'll travel. And then we have crossovers to accommodate, you know, the turnbacks of the trains. Given this is the first stage, you know, we need a turn back at each end, and, you know, Monash also has a turn back to accommodate any disruption to the line. So we have our TBM strategy. We've got 3 launch sites. We've got an intervention shaft as well in Mount Waverley. So, you know, we've worked up an extensive strategy in terms of tunnelling. And then we've built that around our strategy in terms of how we break down those packages. So you'll see on the first line, we've got some orange and some yellow, and that's our tunnelling packages. So we split the tunnelling into package C and D, which is the orange section that goes from Stabling to Glen Waverley, and then the yellow section, which is Burwood to Box Hill. And that's because of the scale of those packages alone, that we wanted to, get maximum reach on the tunnelling participants that we could get into the market. So we've broken that into 2 packages. And I will explain a little bit later about the model that we're going to use for those packages, because that's actually in a 3-2-1 approach, which I'll talk to in a minute. Then we go on to stations. So we've got 6 new stations, and we split those into 2 packages, one shown in blue and another shown in grey. And that's simply on scale as well, just to split those stations and then have that interface with a tunnelling package rather than 2 tunnelling packages is ideal. And then we've got the tunnel fit out works as a separate package again, included as what we call a line-wide package, which is, it's called the green or package G, and it includes tunnel fit out, signalling, rolling stock and related works, and then systems integration. So the green package or line-wide package will include the operator and maintainer. It will also include delivery of the rolling stock. So I'll move on to the next slide, please. So in terms of the packaging and procurement strategy and the procurement model that we'll be using for each of these packages, first of all, we have the tunnels, which will be an incentivised target cost model, and we'll be doing that in a 3-2-1. So when I get to the program, it's probably clearer, but 3 participants will participate. We'll get to a preferred position on the first package, being the orange package, and then the other 2 participants will continue on to compete for the second tunnelling package, the yellow package. In our stations, we have alliance models, which are collaborative models or NEC type contracts for those more familiar, but we do alliance models where the client is integrated with the deliverer, and we work together to find solutions and deliver the project works. And on the line-wide package, we've also got an alliance for the delivery aspect, and then we've got a franchise agreement for the operations and maintenance. But as part of that alliance, we wanted to include the operator and the maintainer so that we get that upfront input into the design, because that line-wide package will also take care of the integration and the accreditation for the safe and operating railway line at the end of the day. So we want the line-wide package in early, and when you see on the procurement schedule in a moment that package will come online shortly after the tunnels package, and we'll confirm some of the elements of the tunnelling to make sure everything's adequately sized to fit in the equipment for the line-wide package. So there'll be a check on the tunnels, a check on the stations design by the green and line-wide package, so that they can take ownership of that fully operating line in an integrator type role for the project. So we think that's a really critical role, and want to see that input from the operator and maintainer well up front. So go on to the next slide, please. So this is our program. So you'll see those orange and yellow packages I talked about for the tunnelling packages. And, we're coming out to market with an EOI in March of next year. And then we'll move into that RFP stage for the orange package with the 3 participants. And then you'll see the drop-down line to the yellow package. That'll be 2 participants of the unsuccessful bidders of the orange will go forward for the tunnelling package, with award of tunnelling in orange in Q4 2023, and then for the yellow package in Q3 2024. And with those tunnelling packages estimated to finish around 2030, 2031. Then we have the line-wide package, which is expected to come to market in about July next year as an EOI, and then into the follow-on for the RFP stage, with an award sometime shortly after checking on those tunnelling packages, but in Q3 2024. And then we have the stations packages as well, which will follow after the green package, coming out to market in 23 with an RFP in 24 and 25, with awards 25 and 26. So it is quite a long duration to get all these inputs, and our operating line will be 2035. Obviously the tunnelling packages have a long lead time for things like TBMs and the like, and that green package, as I said before, we want to bring in nice and early so we have great handover and understanding of the full design concept of stations and tunnels into that line-wide package. Next slide, please. we're on to questions. So I'll hand back to you, Tim.
Great. Thanks very much, Nicole, and also Frankie for that detail. What we have done is compiled, as Nicole mentioned, we've done extensive consultation and reached out to industry around SRL, and there's various questions that come up regularly. So we're just going to answer some of those because I'm sure there's some people wondering about them. So the first question, I'm not sure whether it's for you, Frankie, or Nicole, perhaps Nicole. The rail tunnel between Cheltenham and Box Hill, is this the final line?
Yeah, thanks for the question. And as I said before, what we're trying to achieve is to stick to the rail alignment and station box locations that we have done all the investigations and stakeholder consultation on. But obviously, with the benefit of time and when the new contractor comes on board and they do their own design analysis, if they find something different to our findings, then obviously, we're adaptable. But predominantly, the alignment we would like to keep relatively close to where it is. It's been through the environmental effects statement. We've done all the geotechnical work on that alignment. We have extensive results and understanding of the alignment. So, it is our preference to try and maintain that alignment and station box locations as best we can.
Great, thanks, Nicole. And the other question was, with that extensive development phase, what are some of the key lessons or takeaways around the Suburban Rail Loop Authority learnings that you can share with us?
Do you want me to take that one, Frankie? Or do you want, yeah. So, I guess through the development phase, we've been talking to, our counterparts in other projects locally, nationally and overseas as well. So we've spent some time with the Crossrail project, Sydney Metro project, Melbourne Metro project to really understand and take those lessons learned. Some of those lessons are things like getting the right people in the team, understanding the integration piece, which we've spent extensive time, and getting our packaging procurement strategy right to avoid some of the complications of other contracts that have been in recent times. So, setting the right culture and attitude, I think making sure that people are aligned with the way that we want to see, that Melbourne shaped, and the culture that we set within our teams, an ingrained safety culture, collaborative, partnering approach is what we're looking for. And I guess with our commercial models that we've adapted, which are mostly alliance type, collaborative partnering type models, it's really to cushion between, the different models and respecting the fact that things will change and having commercial mechanisms in place that can handle those changes along the way. Bringing an operator in early and upfront, obviously you can't nail everything and get it all right, but you need the right partner that can come on the journey with us and, help develop the solution together and have, those commercial mechanisms that can take place to handle that change. So all of those things are key lessons that we've pulled in from other projects for the development phase.
Great to see the questions starting to come in, maybe some early nerves there from people. Frankie, I might throw the next one to you, which is around system integration and overall, who will be guaranteeing the integration?
I might hand it to Nicole. She's the expert in the integration side of things.
Okay. Yep. So the line-wide package has the integrator within that package. So the expectation is that integrator, and we'll set up an interface management office that can help integrate all the packages into that system so that we have a safe and efficient operating railway at the end of the day.
Great, thanks. And another one to you, Nicole, from Fraser Sterling. Can any more information be provided on the O&M element of the line-wide package? Example, gross cost or net cost / payment mechanism between award and operational commencement?
We're still developing up our commercial principles for the franchise and for the alliance package for the line-wide. We will come out with more information next year as we progress those commercial principles and the approvals through government. We've got our early outline of what we think it should be. We've been having conversations with the market one-on-one with different operational groups so that we can try and make sure we get those right. But yeah, happy to take those questions offline and provide the information. At least we're discussing with the market presently as ideas, but we haven't locked in those principles as yet.
Great, thanks, Nicole. Perhaps this is one either yourself or Frankie can answer. How do you gauge the interest of international contractors so far?
So I think, Tim, the international contractors, we've started to engage their local representatives here in Australia. As Nicole has mentioned, we've done 3 market soundings in relation to procurement and packaging strategy that we released in the last couple of weeks. And we're finding that the international market is really interested because of the long-term nature of this project, because of the size of the project, and because of the nature that it's going to change Melbourne for the future. We want to bring a collaborative approach to this contract going forward, hence the ITC contracts we have and the alliance contracts we're talking about in the packaging and procurement strategy. So I'm meeting with international players around the world, and Nicole has as well. We're seeing a lot of interest in this project going forward.
And I think, sorry, Tim, just to add to that, the project is operational just for stage 1 in 2035, but round to the airport by 2043 or 53, depending on, government decision making. But, it's an opportunity for the international market to set up for long term. So, we're really keen to see new players come in. It's substantial, as Frankie said, and it has longevity. So you really can establish yourselves and think about that, long-term market of, 30 years. And I guess with the introduction of the new line and stations comes with it investment in those areas as well. So there's lots of opportunities that stem from the Suburban Rail Loop as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nicole and Frankie. And if I can add, at Coast here in London, but covering Europe, we're getting inquiries from major players around the region as well. So there's definitely interest. And from my perspective, one of the pleasing things I've seen the Victorian government do is try and make it a much more competitive field. And process you talked about, Nicole, earlier, trying to understand from the contractors where the pressure points are and what we need to do better to entice them and develop that competition. We're really putting it to action, which is great to see. Next question. Are there design components around the stations, or is the precinct design being part of the concept design?
So the concept design only looks at the station box. The precinct design and the overstation development and adjacent station development is the next stage. We're currently consulting with communities in relation to what they want to see going forward in those areas. So that's something that we'll release in the future, Tim. And we're looking for international interest in that going forward, because that is a major part to build those 6 new communities at the start of SRL East.
Great. Thanks, Frankie. Next question we've got is from Emilio Garcia. He is asking, is the PPP privately funded structure package?
Is it an alternative for the green package is the question. Yes. Frankie, do you want to take that one?
PPP is probably not what we're looking for in the green package going forward. The design, build, on and up and maintain is more of the package we're looking for. The Victorian government, in relation to the financing structure of the PPPs that normally are attached to it, don't require it in relation to the green package going forward. It's really important that we get the green package right, because it's the glue that holds the whole system together, and making sure that we get the operator on early. As Nicole has mentioned earlier, one of the lessons that we've learned from around the world is making sure that operator comes on earlier, and make sure that the operator actually helps in the design and build of the stations and the train line itself.
And in the PPP model, the scope is a lot more fixed, and you don't have that flexibility that we need to be able to cushion, the changes that come along. A PPP is very rigid and suits better to a vertically integrated project where you're sort of delivering the stations, the tunnels, the stations and the railway line. But our project's so big that we've split it, in discipline instead. So it doesn't really allow itself or fare well in the PPP model, in our view.
Right. Here's a question relating to our UK market over here from Doug Green. HS2 in the UK facilitated networking that enabled contractors and consultants to discuss potential partnerships. Is this something you would consider?
Nicole?
Oh, we definitely consider that. It'd be nice to understand the mechanics of how that occurred, but I guess, the conversations have been happening for quite some time to align on the market for this project. So there's quite a lot of conversation going on already, but also happy to facilitate, a networking event. We did do one, when was that? It was last year with the same group. So we have been talking and taking the feedback internationally and trying to point people in the right direction. But definitely, if this is of interest, we would definitely consider it.
Absolutely. And again, in London, if you reach out, we're happy to field inquiries in local time zones for those in Europe, and link you up with the relevant partners back in Melbourne and Victoria in close consultation with Frankie and Nicole. Another question here, a good one. I understand, this is from Andrew Bell, and he writes, I understand that unless you are registered as a consultant on a consultant panel, you cannot be invited to advisory roles. How can we get included on a panel if we enter the Australian market?
Tim, in relation to the panel arrangements for the organisation, we're looking for the best from around the world. The panel arrangements here are pretty open, and the Stat Authority starts today as its first day as a Stat Authority here in Victoria. We'll be looking at panels from global and local suppliers. So making sure you're registered in relation to the expression of interest we put out for those panels is really, really important. We have to go through transparency and procurement selection, but making sure that you're on board. We're looking for ideas that bring the best ideas to the outcomes for Victoria.
Great, thanks, Frankie. The next question I've got from Carl Cholo is a good one as well, because I really think this is one of the pressing concerns every country with infrastructure projects is facing, and that's around skills and talent. So Carl's question is, what skills are required from the international community for the first phase? How will these be communicated and factored into procurement? What are key concerns on local capability and capacity?
Nicole, do you want to take the skills?
Sure. So, a range of skills are required for the Suburban Rail Loop project, because I guess we employ everyone from urban design and planning through engineering into construction, operations and maintenance, and everything in between. And we are also running an authority, so there's all sorts of corporate and communications roles and everything else. In terms of capacity and capability, obviously, there is a shortage. There's a huge infrastructure boom over here, particularly on the East Coast. So we're all competing for people, and, welcome international, resources to come in and support the team to get this project done, not only for, numbers, but also for the skills, particularly in, we're running an independent line for the Suburban Rail Loop. So the rest of the network in Melbourne is on a different technology. And so we have the opportunity to introduce European standards and new technologies. And so people who come with those skill sets as well will easily fit in to our network over here with our automated trains. So, a range of skills that we need to do, and, signalling capacity here is always on a shortage, but there's plenty of opportunity for all sorts of skills base in Australia.
Thanks, Nicole. And of course, we've got the Australia-UK Free Trade Agreement, which has been pretty much agreed in principle, is my understanding. And I know our Commonwealth Government and the UK Government are working very hard to have that finalised and hopefully signed off next year. I think there is a component of that. Well, I know there's a component of that for mobility, and under 35 professionals can live and work in each other's countries for up to, I think it's 3 years. Like this, what a fabulous opportunity for a young engineer to be able to come out and take advantage of that. So, and we're also in negotiations with Europe for a free trade agreement. And, you know, hopefully something similar could be incorporated into that agreement. We've got plenty of lead time for that to happen. It's a massive project with many years to run ahead of it. So, yeah, hopefully we'll see greater transference of skills and knowledge between both markets, or all markets. We're nearing the end of all the questions. One question I had, I noticed has been asked previously in other presentations, is what type of trains are going to service the SRL?
So we're going to have automated trains, a turn up and go service. So, you know, initially we'll have trains at 6 minute intervals during the peak, and then we'll ramp up during high demand to 2-minute intervals when we get around to the airport. So, you know, we're having automated trains. You know, the more automation, the closer you can bring the trains together safely and efficiently, so you can get those 2-minute headways. So we're very excited to be introducing this train into the Melbourne network, and there'll be 4 carriages. They're shorter trains, but high frequency. So you know, we're very excited about that.
Thanks, Nicole. We've got one last question, I think. Hurry up, everyone, and get your questions in if you've got it answered already. This is from Brendan. SRL is a long-term multi-wide O&M package for SRL East, will define systems and operations as a benchmark for the entire line. How are systems, for example, rolling stock, signalling, communications, being considered for future SRL phases?
So I guess as part of the line-wide package, we're considering all of those things, and we're thinking about the commercial mechanisms that could apply to augment the system into the future. So obviously, you know, we've got the DBOM, or the Alliance contract, to deliver the line-wide packages, and then we've got the O&M that would continue on under a separate franchise agreement. And so then we can, you know, think about how to augment those systems forward into the future. You know, it's such a long duration project that, you know, you'll have some obsolescence along the way. So we've been trying to factor in, well, when is the secondary phase, and how long will the equipment last, and would you be replacing the whole lot when you come through for the second phase that connects up the first stage as well? So there's a lot of challenges, and as I said before, that's why we have those alliance packages, so that we can really think about that as a team and get the market input into that as well. We do value your input, and you know, we can identify all those challenges, as everybody can. It's just working out the best way commercially to handle those into the future, knowing that you can't predict everything that will change and when it will change, given the time frame that different government decisions could occur to continue on. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge, and it's an interesting one, but we're thinking about those things at the moment.
Great, thanks, Nicole. There's a couple more questions relating to the train we'll be operating.
Yeah.
One from Nuno Guerra. How many trains are expected in the first phase, and how many cars per train?
Yeah, so it is a small order, and that's one of our other challenges is we have 12, 13 trains in the first phase, and, you know, we have 4 cars per set. So they're small trains, as I said, meeting capacity rolling stock, and yeah, a small order. So that plays into some of the challenges that we've got as well. But, you know, the longer term order and getting up to the future demands, you know, it goes up to 30 and then up to eventually, I think it's 68 trains. So, you know, as the demand grows and the headways are decreased, then you need more trains on the network. So over time, it will grow.
Great, thanks. You may well have answered the next question, but I'll run it past in case I've misunderstood. How many new trains do you plan for SRL East?
Yeah, so they're all new trains because we've got new technology. So there's 12 or 13 trains, 4 car sets for the first phase of SRL East.
Okay, and are there, a follow-on to Nuno's earlier question, are there specific requirements for local content? If so, which areas?
So local content is very important to the Victorian government, especially in the rolling stock, for example. The policy in the rolling stock is 50% local content in the rolling stock. And it's also important in relation to construction to maximize local content going forward. You know, the government is spending, you know, up to $34.5 billion on the first stage of this project. Making sure that they get a return for this into the economy is really important to the government going forward.
Thank you, Frankie. I think that's the end of all the questions. So I might, if it's all right, yes, we've covered all the questions that have come through. So I might close off the question and answers. And Frankie, I might turn to you for some sort of closing comments from you, and then I'll mention a few things. But can I just say to Nicole, it's great to have such expertise talking in detail about such an exciting project. And over to you, Frankie.
Thanks, Tim, and thanks for everybody this morning for getting up early and listening online in relation to this major project. This is a significant project for the people of Victoria. It's really important to make sure we get it right going forward. We want the best outcomes for the people of Victoria. We want the best train line going forward. We want to make sure that the outcomes in relation to the precincts are huge in relation to these new communities we're building. It's the start of an exciting start of the stage of the project. By 2035, we will be operational in SRL East and SRL North, as Nicole has said, between 2043 and 53. When we start, we don't want to finish. We want to actually keep going in relation to this project. It's a great opportunity to come to Australia and actually get international companies here, if you're not here, or international companies who have a base here involved in this project going forward. So please feel free to join us and reach out to Tim and his team in London if you need any more information going forward. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate your time.
Great. Thanks, Frankie. Yes, and you know, Europe is you know, a great source for these projects. It's home to many of the world's leading infrastructure, rail and technology companies. And our role here in our London office is to support you, the companies in your time zone, to set up new or expand existing operations in Victoria. So if you'd like to learn more about these opportunities, please get in contact. We have a number of free and confidential services to companies looking to invest, and these include market and regulatory information, site identification and permitting support, practical assistance, including immigration support and financial incentives. Final slide. Here are my contact details. So please reach out if you would like to discuss further your interest in opportunities in Victoria. We look forward to working with you. As Frankie said, appreciate everyone's commitment to joining today's session online, giving up your time, but I hope you found it useful. We're here to support you and look forward to working with you to make this a great success. Thank you all involved. Thank you for attending. We will close the session here today.